barely the folks in here that haven't played with pastels, you know, don't try them once with some kind of crappy materials or something you get from the dollar store and say, this isn't for me. Give them a chance. Give them a chance, and have some of your friends that have some good pastels let you just play with them one time, because it will change your entire concept of what pastel's about. I've got a few of my students in here that started brand new green fresh with me in pastels. I teach at Artisan here in Albuquerque, and also up in Santa Fe. I teach periodic pastel classes. The ones in Santa Fe are one-day intensives, and the ones in Albuquerque, they're 2 days, and they're normally sold out well before it's time for them to start. But it's an all levels thing. The reason I'm saying this is that I insist on talking to everybody that's in the pastel workshop, even if they've never painted before, to help guide them as to what to start with, so that they're not coming in having a bad experience based on bad pastels. So I think most of you know what I'm talking about. But that said, in 2009, whenever I thought pastels were the devil, whenever I finally got started on them, what I had been painting in, I started my career in this in 1997. Signed my first painting ever in 1997. It was an oil painting. And I found that by complete accident of completing a degree in geology, and I wanted to take one more class, and I was trying to keep my loans deferred, so I took an intro to oil painting class. And that, there you go, midlife crisis, you get a degree in geology and then go, oh, but over here. Yeah. So anyway, that's the story of my life pretty much. But you know, I was painting architectural subjects in oil at the time. And what this part of the conversation is about belonging. It's about all those bifurcating paths, all the times those paths split on choices you can make, things that you can make a decision to try or not to try. It's about opening up to things that you think you'll never do. It's about allowing yourself to explore things that seem completely out of the realm of possibility. So I'm painting oil architecture. I began doing this pastel thing, and I was doing some of the architecture in the pastel. I'm like in this life crisis. We all go through those, right? And so, you know, it was a very devastating, sad life crisis for me to break up with a partner of 14 years. Suddenly, the pastels allowed me to paint birds. I could not paint the birds in oils at the time. The pastels were a vehicle to express, now in retrospect I see, it was expressing, you know, how I was feeling, this freedom and this different, this loss, this, you know, doves flying or any of the weird stuff you can think about. But I'm just saying, the pastels thing gave me the gift of being able to express this other subject I had never even thought about. So I was painting birds, and I got strung out doing still lifes, and went on and did the president thing here for a couple of years, and I had a gallery on Canyon Road for 10, 12 years, William and Joseph Gallery, and through a string of events, she closed up shop, and suddenly I'm without a gallery. And anybody that knows the Canyon Road art scene, and anybody that has the lack of seeing what you're actually capable of yourself, I would have never approached Ventana Fine Art. Never in a million years would I have approached Ventana Fine Art, because I thought it was way up here, and I'm just down here. And I walked in with Marge, because we're friends with a couple of the salespeople there. And I walked in with her, and they asked me kindly, you know, well, how's it going up the road? And I said, well, funny you ask. And this was that afternoon. I had a carload full of artwork from up there I had just picked up, and here it is almost Christmas time, and here I don't have a gallery in Santa Fe anymore, and it was pretty devastating. And so the salesman said, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to go home, I want you to put me together a bio, send me 6 images, all on an email, and send that to me right away. And I'm like, okay. So I'm still thinking, hey, I don't deserve this. I'm not a good enough artist. I haven't been doing this long enough. And sure enough, within 72 hours, I was hanging on the walls in Ventana Fine Art. That's been about, it should be, I think, 4 years ago, I think is how long I've been in there. And I just was told on December 31st they're going to give me a solo show in June. And even with, thank you, and even with that news, I'm thinking I'm not worthy. And that's just what we do. I think we all do that. I think it's easy to go, and hear me say that and say, how can you, or whatever. And I would think the same about so many of you, because we can't see ourselves. We can't see ourselves and what we're capable of. And, most of you know Margie Lucena, and most of you know that about 1.5 years ago she had a death experience, and she survived 2 heart attacks in the hospital. And when that happened to her, and those of you that know me and know us know that there was nowhere one was that the other one wasn't. We were always together and did everything together. And so what I did with that, there's a lot of lessons in all this. I hope all of you are taking notes. What I did with that event was I said, okay, I can do 2 things. I can shut down, which is typical for me. Just shut down, shut out, and go hide, because my best friend may not survive the night, or the week, and then the month, and then the year, and then now. And but I didn't. I said, my survival is right here. This is where my survival is. And I poured everything I had into the art, because I considered it painting for 2, because she couldn't. So I worked that much harder. So the moral to the story, I guess, is that when you have a hole in your heart, literal, figurative, but when you have that figurative hole in your heart from a loss or a difficulty or whatever, this group in here is a very, very lucky group, because we do have a tool to get beyond those things. We've got a way to do that, and it's magical and it's amazing. And when you pour your heart and your love into it, it gives back to you. It will give back to you. And remarkable things that you would think you would never be able to do suddenly are handed to you. So I hope if one person got something out of what I just said, then that was a good reason to spend a few minutes doing that. I just got my signature membership in Pastel Society of America, another thing I would have never thought I could do. And that's, it's just like, I didn't know what I was doing. And anybody that knows Margie's work, I was always putting myself behind Margie, because who can paint like that? Not me. And isn't that the gift? We don't paint like each other. We all paint differently, and we all have our own voice and our own thing to give. So the evolution has gotten to this point now. What you see here and here and here, these 2 are going to Cowgirl Up, which is an invitation-only thing that I was asked to be in. I didn't apply. They just found me and said, we would really love to have your pastels in our show. So they don't have a lot of pastelists, so it's very exciting to be able to show there this year in March. So these 2 24 by 36s are going there, and these I'm not sure what I'm doing with them yet, but I just finished them up. It's a new size for me, an 8 by 16. These 2 are done on hardboard that I use a prepared surface and brush it on. And then these are done on Pastel Premier, which is my favorite pre-prepared surface, my favorite sanded surface. I love Pastel Premier. What do I love about it? I love that it holds lots and lots of layers. I love that to me, I've worked on the art spectrum that you buy. I've worked on a lot of other pre-prepared surfaces, and there's some irregularity to it somehow. I like the smoothness of this. I like that my strokes can be very smooth. And then conversely, what I love about this surface is that on the larger pieces over those great expanses of solid color, you can get some of that underlying undulation, I guess you could call it, where you've got a little action going on. It's not something I don't think people automatically perceive. But if I had done, say, this piece over here on this surface, I feel like the rocks would be too staid. I think that they wouldn't have that little bit of irregularity going. It's when I want irregularity, that's the way I go after it, because then I can control by either rolling that surface on or painting it on and using a roller or even a brayer to lay it down and reduce the amount of brush strokes. You know, it's really a very interesting surface to use that. Anybody got questions about surfaces?
Are you using Golden's pastel primer to on these boards?
I'm using Art Spectrum Color Fix primer, and then also I think it is Golden that has a clear gesso, clear sanded gesso. That's pretty awesome stuff too, and frankly I've been enjoying using that under my oil paintings because it gives a whole different kind of, it kills your brushes, but it gives a whole different kind of action under there. And speaking of oil painting, shameless plug, I'll be doing the Rio Grande Art Association's oil painting workshop for Masterworks this year. So if anybody, I've got three spots left, last count. So 3 spots left as of the first of last week. So if anybody's interested, you probably need to go to the Masterworks website. It's Bonnie Buckley, if anybody knows who that is, but you can go to the website and find all that information.
Quick question about, you said that's Pastel Premier?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get concise edges on Pastel Premier, or are there different weights of it?
Yeah.
There's, as far as I know, Pastel Premier is a one-trick pony, and they only have a couple colors.
But how do you get the sharp edges?
Steady hands. I don't know. You know, that is something. I think people have always seen that in my oil painting as well as in pastel painting. Is I'm a very clean painter. The paintings are very clean, and I don't do a bunch of drawing. I just make a decision where things are going to go, and I stand by that decision. I don't try to overcorrect and go into dark places with light or light places with dark, because I know already I'm going to have mud. It's the same principle as I tell people that like to draw, and they draw with a pencil and they have like a handful of erasers surrounding them like a shrine. I'm like, get rid of the pencil, get rid of the erasers, and get out a pen. Because you learn how to work with what you've done. And I really learned a lot doing that. I really learned a lot about drawing or how to problem solve. You know, it's your critical thinking skills as an artist that get to kick in now and again. So the same thing goes with pastel painting. My students will tell you, I'm saying if you're familiar with watercolor, save your paper. Save your paper. If you know you're going to have your lightest passage there, and you know, so that's how I get the distinct edges, is because I'm just really careful where those things that need to have a distinct edge, I'm very careful about where those things are going to be.
So who makes that Pastel Premier? Like which?
Yeah, I think that is the company. Yeah. If you go to Dakota Art, you can buy Pastel Premier there. I bought it on a bolt. It's like, you know, just a big bolt of it, and then I'll take it to Teresa's frame shop over on Silver, and she will mount it to acid-free foam core for me if I would prefer to have it mounted. So yeah, so it's just Pastel Premier. And I don't know, I like a lot of other different kind of surfaces too. Whenever I taught at the university in Socorro at New Mexico Tech, I always had them painting on the Art Spectrum. That was the go-to, because you know, the price was right, but really it's a lot more irregular than I like. I really like the slickness of this. Any other questions about surface? So, oh wow, how's it 11:30 already? So, Gay, tell me when it's 10 till, or somebody tell me whenever it's 10 till.
It's 10 till, okay.
10 till, when it's 10 till. I'm gonna have to work really fast.
By the way, sorry for technical difficulties, the connector that connects to the projector isn't working, so no projection today.
So you'll find whenever you're seeing my work, what I always do is I start with a tic-tac-toe grid that finds my thirds. I don't like formulas. I don't like staunch rules, but I do like to kind of know where that rule of thirds is. If you want to think about rule of thirds, it's a way to keep from putting things right smack in the middle. It's a way to understand where those thirds are if you're going to work a little bit winging it, which I'm doing today because I don't have time to do anything else. But so that's how I generally start. And so that's all I have up here is that tic-tac-toe grid, so to speak. And so,
Are you using charcoal right now?
no, I go right straight to the pastels and I don't look back. I also have a box of, I'm from the South, it's a box of grits. That's what I keep my pastels in. Works for me.
She's a southern girl.
So those of you that are familiar with Socorro, I live down near Bosque del Apache, and that's where just an awful lot of my references come from. It's a magnificent place, and I love it very, very much, and it's always changing every season and every direction that you look.
And is that your reference material on here?
Yeah, roughly it is. This is out my back door, so I'm always taking pictures of these beautiful sunrises out the back door, and then I will put with them the ground to like at Bosque or whatever, because I like to have something going on the ground. I don't like to just do strictly a silhouette, if you will. I'm not much for that. I don't like just silhouetted paintings. For me, I don't like to do them. I like to have a little more action going on in them. I'm just trying to get a palette put together here.
Natasha, do you ever do underpaintings?
Never. Never, because I like to be able to change my mind, and because I want it clean. You know, it's wherever my head's at, however it is that I'm wanting to portray this thing. I want it to be a clean space to work on. and I don't have time. I don't have time to paint it twice. So I'm just like hitting the ground running on them. Just bear with me and I'll have what I'm wanting to do here a little more together. You guys talk away, ask me questions, whatever you need and want, just ask up. Because I can multitask.
What did you use to do the grid line? Did you just do pastel or pencil?
I usually use just a charcoal pencil.
Do you use thumbnails as your composition?
That's too much work. I know that flies in the face of a lot of folks and how they like to do things, but no, seldom do I. I paint in my sleep. Whenever I'm not standing at the easel, whenever I'm not doing something else, I'm painting. It's going on in my head all the time. So You know, maybe the answer to that actually is yes. Because there's so much happening that I'm thinking about all the time. And I usually see a painting before I start it. So I kind of know where it's going to go anyway. So the thumbnail's up here. I'd show you, but that'd be tragic.
Do you blend with the pastels or with?
Mostly with the pastels. The blending just almost always is with the pastels.
And you're using a variety of types of pastels?
I am. I have many favorites, and it just depends on what I'm after.
When you say what you're after, do you mean texture, soft, hard, or just color?
Yes. And yeah, you know, there's some brands, there's just no replacing the particular colors. I know for greens, I'm just crazy about the lemon.
So which
What is it?
pastel do you use?
Dakota, no, what am I trying to say? Blue Earth pastels. The lemon, the box of lemon, I use that as my green all the time. Very, very, very frequently.
So you're using totally soft pastels?
Totally. There's only like, I keep a black, a blue, and a white of the new pastel. Usually don't even have them today. The really hard ones, seldom do I use them. I keep, there's where my other colors are. I keep an extra box. I go out in the field with this, it's all in a backpack. This is also in the backpack. And what I've got in here are Diane Townsend Tirages, which I totally believe in for my dark tones are wonderful. They've got a shadow and something set that's wonderful. Some of the New Art Spectrum that I found at IAPS, and I'm in love with some of these blues. Oh my gosh, they're wonderful. And then I keep a couple of pastel pencils on hand also. So I have, you know, a great variety to use. So then whenever I'm sort of arranging where it is that I want things and how I want the sky to sort of show up, I start to, I know a lot of times, you know, when you're beginning and first starting out, you're sort of a slave to your photo reference. And that's a good thing, and that's how you learn. But there's also this whole brand new ball of wax that happens whenever you can start to get those skies that you love, if that's your thing. If you're wanting to go after a beautiful sky, you can kind of get that sky going on and say, okay, but I want this to be at Bosque del Apache. That's what I want. That's what I really, really want. So in order to do that, what I love so much about Bosque is this time of year, whenever they've got the waterways flooded up, is I love what happens down here with the reflections of all this stuff. So I start to set my sky because I want to be sure I've got everything there the way that I want it.
She's got a different process, a different, interesting.
And these always look like chaos. Trust me, everything that you see up here looks like this to begin with. It really does. There's a method to the madness. But that's the thing, is that, you know, we've all got to experiment and find out what that is. What does that mean for us? Because none of us see color the same. In my students that I have, I've got two monthly groups. They're semi-private, and they all work on one thing. I pick one thing for them to work on, and they all work on that one thing. And so periodically I make them get up and go around and look at everybody else's, because it's amazing how when you've got one single painting, one single photo reference, and you've got 5 students, 6 students, and then just look and see, and it's how we approach it. It's what do we see and what's important about it to you. I am sorry we didn't get this launched faster.
What size paper do you use when you're out plein air painting?
I use everything up to a 12 by 24, so it's normally something standard, 11/14, 9 by 12, 8 by 10. 12 by 24 is on the outside, depends on how ambitious I am and how much time I've got.
Do those tend to be finished paintings, or do you use them as a studio reference?
I paint everything with the idea, you know, even if I'm painting in the studio, all of that is a study. Everything's a study, because every time I step up here, you know, you can't expect somebody that stands up to do a demo to complete a painting and it's beautiful and it's going to get framed up and it's going to be in a gallery for $1,000 or whatever, you know, because sometimes we fall on our face and it just doesn't work. So I approach every painting as something that is a means to an end. It's going to finish up, and very seldom do I go back and do some studio version of it. That's very, very seldom. So then I start to think, okay, where do I think I would like? Because I want to have water going on down here. And I've just kind of got to decide where it is that I want it to be. And how do I want it to read? And the thing that I harp on whenever I'm harping, and I do that a lot in class, I ask some of my students, I see one of them laughing at me back there, you know, it's like, keep the contrast, keep your contrast, because everything about what you're doing, everything depends on how your contrast looks. You know, where's your darkest darks, where's your lightest lights, where are the values? How do you want that to read? How do you want people to view this? What do you want them to see when they look at your painting? So I start to build the ground. I know I put that color in here. I just know I did. My grits ate it.
You talk to yourself in the studio?
All the time. That's why I turn the music up, so I don't have to hear it.
Do you ever leave some of the paper showing, or do you let it?
Yes, that's a really good question. That's why I choose a middle tone, because I really like to have some of that echo through. Sometimes, not all the time, sometimes. And so whenever I'm doing a large piece like this, I'm really calculated about what color I use underneath, because I want something that kind of ties it together. And what I'll do often is I locate a pastel that is the color of this, okay? So that if I lose too much of my background, but I've got like the sky, I really like the sky and there's parts of it showing through, I've got a pastel that color to go in and touch around so that I can tie it back in if I've lost too much of it.
Are you using a black pen?
Nope.
What is it?
Green.
Green.
What's whispering. I want to hear. Tell me, what are you saying?
Have you ever brushed off and used the same surface?
Only whenever I paint it on, only whenever I do the art spectrum, only whenever I do that, because you know, it can take a beating and I can put a little bit more on. But you know what, I tell you, I paint so many paintings that it's better for me just to throw it away, start over. So somebody was asking me about blending, if I blended with the pastel. And this is sort of that action. So I'll put a lot of times a dark under because I want a little bit of a dark rim under or whatever. And then I make sure I put too much of it, like I'll drag it on down because I know what's going to happen under it. And that's a lighter shade of what that is. But as you know, it's just like with these grapes. Whenever I stepped up to paint these grapes, I looked in my pastel box and I'm like, how in the hell am I going to paint that? There's not a grape color in the pastel box because there's no such thing as that color. There's just no such thing as that color. And it's a matter of everything is overlaid and you're creating second, third, 10th, 100th colors based on what you're pulling up, what's blending up in the pastel that you're using. So this is yet a third notion of this color. Those of you that can see that from where you are. And then do I ever use anything to blend? I do sometimes. Just depends on what I'm after, what I'm trying to get across. And the thing to really be careful of blending too soon, and the only reason I'm doing this is for your edification so you can see when I do this. I seldom touch the pastel paper, seldom. But some places I want to be a little bit more, it pushes it back. The thing about pastels, and some of you who have done it forever don't even know this part of it. So I was a geologist first. What I know about pastel is that whenever you look at it under a microscope, it's crystalline, right? So all these little crystals with all these little facets, and what it's doing whenever it's sitting on your paper is it's communicating with the paper color, it's communicating with the colors around it. Whenever you blend and you push your finger over that, you're laying everybody down the same direction. So it no longer has the same refractive quality that it has whenever you first lay it down. You have changed the complexion of the pastel altogether. Some people make a career of painting and blending pastels, which is fine if that's your thing. But you see how the vibrancy just vanishes, you know, whenever you lay it down. So I don't know, I think it's important to figure out how to play in your pastels with as little blending as possible because you do kind of kill the vibrancy of the pastel. Am I boring you?
No.
Good.
Time here. Natasha, stand still.
How did that happen? You guys, we'll have to do this again.
Maybe they won't get us out.
Just keep doing it.
All right, I'll just keep painting until somebody comes and yells at us. How about that?
It'd be nice if you continue it and send a little further to Maryland for the next newsletter, since we were short of time.
I'll see if I can
do that, Natasha.
I'll see if I get it pulled together, I'll do that for sure.
It doesn't have to be completed, you know.
Okay.
It'd be a wonderful addition.
Sure. Happy to do that. Now, I love sparky colors, man. I'm just crazy about sparky colors, and you know the ability to lay those in there. You know, they're your in between tones. I save them a little bit, you know, and then that is what cleans up my edges.
What's a sparky?
Yeah.
Just a sparky color, you know, like a crazy orange that everybody goes, oh, when do you ever use a color like that? All the time. It's my favorite, you know. So I mean the things that really are intense and like flat in the middle of the Wikipedia description of what color is orange, it's that color. So whatever is like the most intense of that I've got, I kind of save it because I want it on top, because I want that vibrancy to show through. That to me is the most important part of it, and that's what's singing, you know, with the rest of it, in my opinion. I tend to err toward the deeper purples whenever I'm doing a lot of my landscape in this kind of day, this kind of time of day, because they echo, the purples. This is I know you can't see it, but it's a red purple. So if I'm using that on the landscape toward the back, like this here, you know, that's where the sky is doing its interaction with the ground, and everything does turn a violet or a purple. So I save those red purples, and what I tell my students all the time is I'm saying, you make the decision. You make the decision on if this is going to get warmer as it goes away from you, or if it's going to get cooler as it goes away from you, and then you stick to it. You stick to it. So I'm going to use these warmer purples out here. And whoever asked me if I was using black, so whenever I pull that up against that green back there, you know, it looks like the tree line. It gives me some tree. I never use black. I never have occasion to use black. And so now with our limited time,
how do you keep dust from streaming down across the surface?
you always want to set this up as 90 degrees as you can get, and then there's no such thing. You know, I mean, no such thing as keeping it from doing that. It's always going to do that. But if you make sure, there's a lot of pastels that'll actually lean it forward. But I have my easel for pastels set up where it's absolutely 90 degrees. So I just let it fall. And, you know, I'm cognizant of that whenever I'm laying my lightest light, say in on the water or whatever. I'm going to save that till last. And I'm going to take this outside and I'm going to tap it down and I'm going to get rid of all the loose. And then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to do the highlight colors and so forth that might get lost otherwise because things are drifting into it. Now I try not, other than for the sake of identifying where some of the lightest lights are, I don't often use those this early, except where I know this sun has gone down. I want to be sure I identified that first because everything else is emanating from that.
If you work off of photographs, do you repeat several times and execute it in different ways?
Not generally. You know, I've got a place out at Bosque. Those of you that have been, you go through the toll booth and you go straight ahead instead of going on either loop. You go straight ahead, and then if you look off to the right after they flooded out there, a lot of times these landscapes generate from there. So in answer to that, yes, because a lot of times I use that as the foil excuse to do the sky, so it gives me something to use it against. But I seldom paint things twice anymore. I'm about light years behind in all the ideas I have and all the stuff I want to paint, so it's like there's no reason to repeat too much. Tirages, if you've not used them, they're wonderful. You know, darks are your friends.
Oh, good. One more thing for me to buy.
Yeah, unfortunately. They are indispensable, though, for me. I really find them to be the total the total deal. And you guys, you can come up here if you want to, come on up or whatever. And the big things are not protected, so be careful. And this is not protected, but everything else except this one's behind glass. So come on up if you want to. And times to use a pastel pencil. I don't use pastel pencil black. I just got through telling you I don't use black, and then there is one place that I do. When it's not really perceptible, it's really just a definition. But I use the Primos, what is it? Yeah, Primo charcoal pencils. They're very, very dark, and they lay down like pastel. They're that soft. Bye, Bonnie. Thank you for coming. But they're very good for detailing out or to get a little separation. So someplace like this up here that I might want to separate.
Could you repeat that, Natasha? Said what kind of pencil?
It's pastel. No, it's a Primo. Primo.
Oh.
Primo charcoal pencils. They make a white and a black. And so I'll use that sometimes. And to Sandra, who asked about keeping the colors really clean, you know, some of that definition, then I'll just go scratch in a little definition. I'm not using it as a big color spark or anything. I'm not using it as I don't know, I just seldom, but it's a good tool. It's almost a blending tool, really. Did you have a question?
I just wanted to see him.
Oh, awesome. Well, get down here and come see them. Yeah, it's a free-for-all now because we're out of time, so come on up if you guys want to.
We've got 3 minutes.
3 minutes? Well, I can get this done. Finish it in 3 minutes. But I appreciate you guys so much for coming out. I really do appreciate it because I understand it's a pretty good crowd today. So I'm really very humbled and honored that you would come out today. Thank you.
Protective besides glass, how do you put over and keep them from?
You mean just to transport them?
Yeah, transport or just to like save them.
I simply use tracing paper. I just, I use tracing paper, but I make sure it's buckled down on all edges, and that works out pretty well. But I'm usually pretty good about being sure I've knocked off any excess and blown off any excess outside. And glassine is, to me, I may be wrong, glassine is just an expensive tracing paper. I think you can buy tracing paper and a sheet and a block and use that, and it's a lot cheaper and goes a lot further, and you can throw it away and not bleed.
Ask you something. Do you spray your pastel when they're finished or not?
Fixative? No, I use zero fixative.
Okay.
I just don't use it.
What kind of glass do you put on your pastel?
AR. This is all AR. Will it fade if you hang it in your sunroom where the sunshine shines on it 3 hours in the hottest part of the day? Oh, it sure will, Yeah, it will. It's my opinion, then, having kind of gone from, art fairs to actual galleries. It's like if people are in there and they're collecting your work, the important thing is the aesthetic. They want to see the painting. They don't want to see how their makeup's put on today. They don't want to see if their hair is like, with cheap glass. So it's important to put really good glass. I do not like museum glass because there's a right side and a wrong side, and I'm not made of money. AR serves the purpose of zero glare. It protects the physical pastel. It is not UV. And I just frankly don't see the trade-off being worth it myself.
Does it mean something?
AR, anti-reflective, but they have, so you have to be careful because you might go to buy that and they sell you non-glare. You do not want non-glare because it makes everything blurry. When you go to the side, it distorts everything. It's wretched, and that's what we had for a while. That was the choice you had, but it was terrible.
And you were saying that your pastel, the paper, you had it mounted somewhere? Like
This is not mounted. Whenever I put, whether I mount something on a foam core or not, whether I'm using that particular method, I always pin it down to a board because I want it up out of the pastel float. I want it out of the drift that's going to be in the tray because I don't want that mess all over everything in my car and you name it. So I always hinge it. So this is all hinged. So none of it's being obscured because whenever I frame things, I frame it right up against the glass. No fear. I just frame it right against the glass. And I have tried, I did a 20 by 24 painting. And I put that thing together. I packaged it together, which is a whole nother demo. But I packaged it together with it right up against the glass. I did not put it in a frame, so it even had that much less protection. It was not in a frame. And I propped it up on my whirlpool tub on the back and left it there for 6 months. So it was in there for daily showers, humidity, hot weather, cold weather. And I took it apart and I did not even have to clean that glass in order to put it on another painting. So if you seal it up, you can put it right up against the glass. If I'm going to work like this and do a painting on an irregular surface for all intents and purposes versus Pastel Premier, a painted on surface of course has more irregularity, before I start painting on it or as I'm surfacing it, I am eyeballing that. I'm laying it up on the table and I'm making sure that there's no funny anomalous high spots. And if there are, I tamp them down. I be sure everything's tamped down. So I make sure everything is on the level so there's not one little point sticking up. And I have had great success and they've been shipped to Paris that way and been fine. So.
When you say seal it up, how do you seal it up in the box?
I use acid-free tapes and so forth, but it's in a package. It's all packaged together and it's sealed all the way around. So that just prevents the moisture from accumulating underneath. If you seal it up, the moisture can't get in there. So I don't know what all the fuss is. I think we tend to make a big deal out of things when we can study it and do something to correct the potential problem, get it corrected, and then that is no longer a problem.
So you never use mats?
I hate mats. Here's the reason. I have spent the last 10 years, I guess, 10 years trying to get my pastels and my oils to look like the same artist and the same painter and the same sort of palettes if you hung them on the wall, putting them with no mats, framing them up with AR glass that is not reflecting. You cannot tell whether that is an oil or a pastel from across the room. That has been my goal. So, yeah, that's why I don't put a mat. And, bless the framers, right? But that's a reason for a framer to sell you a bigger frame and more stuff and more steps and more to do. And I can't get custom framing on my work. What did I paint this year? 111 or something like that? I don't have enough money in the world to do that, even on a good year, to have them all custom framed. So I do things standard sizes. I buy the glass in bulk. I have it cut locally whenever I need sizes cut down, and I frame them myself. Anybody else? Keep on asking.
Is there a reason why you don't use fixative?
Because who asked that? Okay, the reason I don't use a fixative is if I'm going to put the work right up against the glass, I want no chemical. I want nothing. I know that it's nothing but this luxurious, completely dry. Only thing in there is binder. That's what would stick to the glass if it got damp. That's what would cause it to stick, is just the binder. But if you're adding hairspray, if you're adding a fixative to it, now you're giving a gummy or something else that is coating over the top of it. You are putting a barrier between the pastel and the glass. And I just feel like that enhances the chances. You know, if you've laid down so much pastel, you get some hills sometimes, and I go in with this finger, like my mother always told me, if you're putting on makeup, you know, I use this finger and I tap those little hills down. You know, there's nothing about putting this directly against the glass that does anything. The beautiful thing is, why would you need a fixative? Because now you've got something that is making sure that if that thing gets a hit, that it's got something protecting it. To me, it's the best form of protection. And if I was juried into Enduring Brilliance in New York City for the Pastel Society of America. That was another feat. But I got the painting in, and whenever it got returned to me, it was broken. The glass was broken on it whenever I got it back. And it was a 12 by 24, and something had hit it, ping, right here, and pushed, and so it was cracked all down like that, okay? And I turned the painting over, took it out of the frame, unsealed it, took the glass off. The only place I had a little bit of interruption that I had to touch up a little bit was where this had stayed put and this one piece came off, so there was a little line of demarcation because I had a very solid skylight, this blue guy over here. I fixed it in about 15 seconds. The painting wasn't damaged, the frame wasn't damaged. There is a benefit to framing with the glass right up on top of the pastel, because if it had had that space, it would have gouged the painting. It would have made a mess, and the glass would have been sliding around between the glass and the painting, so it would have wrecked it.
Your smaller ones, the small thin black frame on these here, if you're putting them into another frame that has a wider width, gilded or wood, would you just keep it in that black frame and pop it in?
This isn't a frame. Here is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the package with the AR glass and the pastel right up against, and then this is no deeper than my rabbit, so whenever I pop it into a frame, you never see that.
Oh, I thought it was a frame.
Go ahead.
Is your paper mounted to foam core?
No, everything's a loose thing. You know, if I am dead and it's 50 years from now or 100 years from now and somebody goes, you know, the master Natasha Isenhour, and we have one of her originals. So whenever they go and they want to take this apart, I don't have issues. They don't have issues. They can take it apart and they've got the original paper right there. It's not had some sort of glue or sticky tacky or crap put on it to make it mount to something else. It's just right there, the original paper with the art. Any other questions?
So that's just tape?
This is the acid-free tape all around. Come on up. That's what I'm saying. You know, I know our time's up, so come on up and check it out.
That's just paper, your paper and your glass, and that's it?
Paper, glass, acid-free foam core on the back.
Oh, you do have that?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. So you do have that.
That's the acid-free